Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we'll be exploring something I know a lot of you are really curious about, and that is yoga.
That's right.
But, we're not just talking about the physical poses.
Right.
We're going way beyond that to uncover some really fascinating insights into consciousness itself.
Absolutely. And we've got some rich material to work with today.
Oh, yeah.
Excerpts from a classic yoga text interwoven with a study that examines these concepts from both yogic and theosophical perspectives.
So it's safe to say this is going to be a deep dive.
Absolutely. We're going deep.
Okay, I am so ready.
Right.
Now, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people think of yoga as just the poses, right? The asanas.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing in our sources suggests that's just one small part of a much larger journey.
Exactly. What's fascinating is how the text really emphasizes yoga as a journey of self-knowledge, a process of connecting with your true essence.
I love that.
It's not about just, achieving a certain level of flexibility.
Right.
It's about unfolding your inner potential.
I love how the text uses this metaphor of a seed germinating to kind of illustrate this point.
Oh, yeah.
Can you unpack that a little for us?
Sure. So just as a seed contains all the potential to become this magnificent tree, we each carry within us the blueprint for our own growth and transformation. And yoga provides the tools and practices to nurture that seed, to guide it through various stages of development, ultimately revealing its full splendor.
So rather than focusing on just perfecting a pose,
Right.
we should be focusing on cultivating the conditions for our inner selves to kind of blossom.
Exactly. And this journey of self-discovery isn't always easy.
Yeah.
In fact, the text suggests that challenges and setbacks are not obstacles. They're actually integral parts of the process.
I've definitely found that to be true in my own life. Like every time I face a challenge, it's like, I learned something valuable about myself.
Right.
Might not be fun in the moment, but it's those tough experiences that always lead to growth.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, yoga is saying that challenges are not meant to break us, but to strengthen our spirit, to reveal the resilience and inner strength we might not even know we possess.
Right.
It's in those moments of adversity that we discover our true potential.
So those difficult experiences, the losses, frustrations, illnesses, they become opportunities for transformation.
Yeah.
It's like that fire that tempers the steel.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
They forge us into stronger, more resilient beings.
It's almost as if the universe is intentionally presenting us with these situations to help us evolve.
Well, the text does offer a fascinating perspective on our place in the universe.
Okay.
It uses this grand theatrical metaphor describing the stars, mountains, oceans as this magnificent set of a cosmic stage.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is.
So if the universe is the stage, then what's the play about?
That's the big question, right?
What roles are we playing?
The text suggests that the purpose isn't just to admire the scenery. It's to participate in this unfolding drama of consciousness.
Right.
It's about the evolution of the being within each of us.
I love that.
It even uses this intriguing phrase, the great architect of the universe, to describe the force behind this grand design.
So every experience, every relationship, even the beauty we encounter in nature, it's all part of this larger process of our consciousness evolving.
Precisely. And speaking of evolution, the text goes on to describe consciousness as evolving through various kingdoms of nature. It starts with minerals, then progresses to plants, animals, and ultimately towards the divine.
It's like the universe itself is on this grand evolutionary journey, and we're all a part of that.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder where each of us stands on that spectrum.
It certainly does. And one of the key insights from this text is that yoga helps us become conscious participants in our own evolution. Instead of just being swept along by the currents of life,
Right.
we can actively shape our journey and move towards greater awareness.
Okay, so how exactly do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we become more conscious participants? What tools does yoga offer?
Well, the text dives into a fascinating exploration of the three states of consciousness.
Okay.
Jagrat, the waking state, Svapna, the dreaming state, and Sushupti, deep sleep.
Yeah, I think most of us are familiar with those states. We experience them every day.
Right.
But how does understanding them on a deeper level help us in our yoga journey?
What's often overlooked is that each of these states has a unique relationship to our body, our senses,
Right.
and ultimately to how we experience the world.
Okay.
Yoga isn't just about experiencing these states passively. It's about learning to consciously navigate between them. Imagine having more control over your dreams,
Right.
or being able to access the peace of deep sleep while awake.
Okay, now that sounds intriguing. Sign me up.
Right.
But before we go any further,
Yeah.
let's talk about this ultimate goal of Yoga Samadhi.
Okay.
It's often described as union with universal consciousness. But what does that actually mean?
That's a great question, and it's important to understand that samadhi isn't a single static experience.
Oh, yeah.
The text describes it more like a diver exploring deeper and deeper parts of the ocean. There are levels of samadhi,
Okay.
each with an increasing expansion of awareness.
So it's not like flipping a switch and suddenly you're enlightened.
Right.
It's a process of gradually expanding your consciousness.
Exactly. And as you move through those levels, the text mentions access to what it calls supernormal states.
Okay.
Things like enhanced intuition, clairvoyance, and a profound sense of interconnectedness.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing. It makes you wonder what it would feel like to actually experience reality on that level.
It does.
But before we get lost in the depths of samadhi,
Right.
the text introduces this kind of mysterious concept called the cloud experience.
Yes, the cloud experience.
Tell me more about this cloud.
Well, it's described as this state of profound silence and stillness, where even the external world seems to fade away. You enter this deep inner space, and it's then that you might start to sense something other.
Okay.
Something beyond the usual boundaries of perception, almost like a new reality trying to break through.
So consciousness expanding beyond its normal limits?
Yeah.
That sounds exhilarating and a little unsettling.
It's both.
Right.
The text compares it to a thick fog slowly dissipating, revealing glimpses of what lies beyond.
Ooh, that sends shivers down my spine.
That's a powerful image.
Could that something be? I guess that's a question we'll have to explore further, right?
Absolutely. We'll delve deeper into that in a bit, but before we do,
Okay.
there's another point I found really intriguing. The text emphasizes the role of imagination in yoga.
With imagination, I thought yoga was all about focusing on reality, not getting lost in fantasy.
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
What's fascinating is the text actually presents imagination as a powerful tool for spiritual development,
Okay.
particularly in a technique called devotional meditation.
Okay, so how does imagination fit into devotional meditation? What exactly are we imagining?
Well, in this practice, you use your imagination to create a vivid mental scene, often involving a deity or a sacred symbol that holds deep meaning for you.
So I might visualize like a radiant lotus flower, or a serene Buddha statue, or a figure representing peace.
Exactly. And by focusing your attention on this image, you begin to quiet the mind and cultivate a sense of devotion.
It's like giving my mind something positive and inspiring to focus on, instead of just letting it wander aimlessly.
Precisely. And as you continue this practice, your mind naturally becomes calmer and more focused, leading to a deeper state of concentration.
So imagination, rather than being a distraction, actually becomes a bridge to a deeper connection with our inner selves.
Exactly.
It's fascinating. But, let's be real. There are times when my mind is so restless and agitated that even the most serene image won't do the trick.
That's where the concept of desire comes into play. And this is where the text gets really interesting because it highlights the importance of desire as a driving force in our yoga journey.
Wait, desire? Isn't desire usually seen as something negative?
In many spiritual traditions, yes.
Something we're supposed to overcome.
Right. But what's fascinating about this text is that it acknowledges the power of desire
Okay.
and encourages us to harness it, to channel it towards our spiritual aspirations.
So instead of trying to suppress our desires, we're supposed to transform them into fuel for our spiritual growth.
Exactly. The text specifically mentions a burning desire for the realization of the self.
That makes sense. It's like that old saying where your attention goes, your energy flows. If we can direct our desires towards something meaningful like self-realization, then those desires can become a powerful force for transformation.
Right.
But how do we actually do that?
Right.
How do we channel those desires effectively?
That's a great question. And it brings us to another key concept in the text, the importance of willpower.
Okay, so willpower is like the steering wheel. That helps us direct those powerful desires. But willpower can be elusive.
It can.
How do we cultivate it?
That's where the real work of yoga begins.
Right.
The text emphasizes that willpower is developed through discipline and practice.
So it's not about magically summoning willpower
No.
out of thin air.
It's about putting in the effort, showing up consistently, even when we don't feel like it.
Right. It's like building any skill.
Exactly.
Whether it's playing an instrument or learning a new language, it takes dedications, patience, a willingness to push through those moments of resistance.
Absolutely.
This is all starting to make sense, but I have to ask, is willpower really enough to overcome Deeply ingrained habits or addictions?
That's a good question.
What if we're dealing with something really challenging that feels beyond our control?
Those are excellent questions, and the text actually provides some really insightful guidance on how to approach those deeper challenges.
Okay.
It suggests a fascinating technique that involves harnessing the power of imagination, but in a slightly different way than we discussed earlier.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. How does imagination come into play here?
This technique involves visualizing the negative consequences of indulging in the habit or addiction you're trying to overcome.
So instead of focusing on a peaceful image, I'd be picturing the opposite,
Yes.
the painful realities of what I'm trying to avoid.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes that this requires honesty and courage.
Yeah.
You need to be willing to face the uncomfortable truths about your behavior and its impact on your life.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
But isn't there a risk of getting stuck in those negative thoughts and feelings?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But the text is clear that this technique should be used with wisdom and compassion.
Okay.
It's not about dwelling on negativity or punishing yourself.
Right.
It's about using the power of your mind to shift your perspective and motivate positive change.
Right. It's about acknowledging the pain and suffering that this habit or addiction is causing and using those visualizations as a catalyst for change.
Precisely. And the text suggests pairing those negative visualizations with positive affirmations and empowering beliefs.
So after visualizing the consequences I want to avoid,
Mm-hmm.
then I would focus on the positive outcomes I'm working towards: a healthier body, a clear mind, a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. And by repeatedly reinforcing those positive associations, you're essentially rewiring your brain to crave those healthier choices.
This is amazing. It's like we have this incredible power to shape our own reality
We do.
through the power of our minds.
We absolutely do. And the text emphasizes that this power is amplified when we align our intentions with the principles of truth, compassion, and selflessness.
That makes sense. It's like those intentions become supercharged when they're coming from a place of pure love and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been talking a lot about the mind.
Right.
What about the other aspects of our being, our bodies, our emotions, our energy? How do those play into the practice of yoga?
That's a great question. It brings us to another key concept in yoga, the idea of purification.
Purification. Okay,
Yeah.
tell me more.
Well, the text explains that just as we need to purify our minds by cultivating right thinking,
Mm-hmm.
we also need to purify our body's emotions and energy.
So it's like a full body detox, but on a much deeper, more holistic level.
Exactly. The idea is that by purifying these different aspects of ourselves,
Okay.
we create the conditions for consciousness to flow more freely,
Yeah.
allowing our true self to shine through.
Such a beautiful image. But how do we actually go about purifying these different aspects of ourselves?
Wow.
Where do we even begin?
Well, the text offers specific guidance on how to approach this purification process for the physical body. It emphasizes proper nutrition exercise and practices like asanas, postures, and pranayama breathing techniques.
Okay, so it's about taking care of our physical vessels, creating a healthy foundation. For spiritual growth, it makes sense that our physical well-being would impact our mental and emotional states.
Right.
But what about purifying those more subtle aspects, our emotions and energy?
For the astral body, which is associated with our emotions, purification involves controlling our desires, cultivating positive feelings like love, compassion, and gratitude, and practicing meditation.
It sounds like a process of becoming more aware of our emotional patterns and choosing to respond to life's challenges with greater wisdom and equanimity.
Precisely. And when it comes to our energy, often referred to as prana,
Mm-hmm.
purification involves practices that help to remove blockages and promote a free flow of vital life force throughout the body.
That's fascinating. It's like clearing out the energetic cobwebs so that our true essence can shine through. But I'm curious, does the text mention any specific guidelines for purifying the physical body through diet?
It does.
What does a yogi typically eat?
And is quite specific on this point. The text states that a true yogi avoids meat consumption.
Really?
Why?
Why is that? I know many people who practice yoga and incorporate meat into their diets.
The text explains that meat carries the energy of the animal it came from,
Okay.
and that energy can interfere with the yogi's pursuit of higher consciousness.
Interesting. So it's not just about physical health, but about aligning your diet with your spiritual aspirations.
Precisely, the text suggests that a yogi's diet should consist of foods that are highly vitalized,
Okay.
meaning they contain a purer and more refined energy.
So things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, foods that are grown with care and respect for nature.
Exactly. The text emphasizes choosing foods that nourish your body and support your spiritual growth.
This is also enlightening. It's amazing how much wisdom is packed into this text.
It is.
We've been talking about all these different aspects of yoga, the mind, the body, the energy.
Right.
And I'm wondering, how do they all come together? What's the ultimate goal of this practice?
That's the heart of it all, isn't it? The ultimate goal, as we touched on earlier, is self-realization.
Self-realization, it sounds so profound.
It is.
But what does it actually mean? Paint a picture for us.
It's about recognizing our true nature, the essence of who we are beyond the limitations of our bodies, minds, and emotions. It's a process of unveiling, like polishing a diamond to reveal its inherent brilliance.
So what are those impurities we need to polish away to reveal our true self?
Think of them as the attachments, desires, fears, and limiting beliefs that keep us bound to suffering and prevent us from experiencing our true nature. They cloud our perception like dust on a mirror, distorting our view of reality.
It's like carrying around all this unnecessary baggage that weighs us down and keeps us from seeing clearly.
Exactly. And through the practice of yoga, through the purification of our minds and bodies, the cultivation of right thinking, and the development of willpower and concentration, we gradually shed those impurities and allow our true self to shine through.
That sounds incredibly liberating.
It is.
But if self-realization is the ultimate goal, what does that look like in practice? How does it manifest in our lives?
The text explains that as we progress on this path, we begin to experience a profound shift in our perception. We start to see the interconnectedness of all things, the unity that underlies the apparent diversity of the universe.
It's like we're moving from a limited egocentric view of reality to a more expansive, interconnected awareness.
Precisely. And as that awareness expands, we begin to experience a sense of peace, joy, and fulfillment that is independent of external circumstances.
That's what we're all searching for, isn't it?
It is.
True freedom. Freedom from suffering, freedom from limitations, freedom to be our true selves.
Exactly. But the text reminds us that this freedom isn't something we achieve overnight. It's a gradual process that requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to face our own inner shadows.
Right. A lifelong journey, not a destination.
It is.
But, we've been talking about all these incredible benefits of yoga. And I'm wondering, does the text mention any potential challenges or pitfalls we might encounter along the way?
It does.
What about the dangers of opening up to these deeper levels of consciousness?
That's a great question. And you're right to bring it up. The text does address those concerns and offers some guidance on navigating potential challenges. It even talks about the potential dangers of encountering certain beings on the astral plane.
Beings on the astral plane, what does that even mean?
Well, in yoga, it's understood that there are different levels of reality.
Okay.
And the astral plane is a more subtle realm that exists beyond the physical world we perceive with our senses.
Okay, so we're talking about a realm that we can't see or touch with our physical senses.
Exactly. And the text explains that this realm is inhabited by various beings, some of which can be quite mischievous or even harmful.
Whoa, that sounds a bit spooky.
It can be.
What kind of beings are we talking about here? Ghosts, demons?
No, not in the traditional sense. The text refers to them as elementals.
Elementals.
They're described as beings that are composed of subtle energy and can take on various forms. Think of them more like energetic forces that can influence our thoughts, emotions, and even our physical well-being.
Interesting. So how do these elementals pose a danger to those practicing yoga? I mean, if we can't even see them, how can they possibly affect us?
Well, the text explains that as we begin to explore the astral plane through practices like meditation or astral projection, we become more sensitive to these subtle energies. And if we're not careful, we can become vulnerable to the influence of these elementals.
Okay. I can see how that could be a concern, especially if you're venturing into this uncharted territory without a guide.
Right.
So are there ways to protect ourselves from these negative influences?
Absolutely. The text offers some guidance on how to stay safe and grounded while exploring these deeper realms of consciousness.
Okay, good. I'm definitely going to want to hear about that. But before we go any further, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back to delve into those protective measures and more.
So before we took that little pause, we were talking about elementals.
Yeah.
And the potential dangers of encountering them on the astral plane. It's a topic that raises a lot of questions.
It does.
And, it's totally natural to feel apprehensive about unseen forces.
Yeah. I have to admit, the whole idea of these subtle beings kind of lurking in the shadows is a little unnerving. It makes you wonder if there are precautions we can take to protect ourselves while we're exploring those deeper realms.
That's a really good point. And thankfully, the text offers some practical guidance on how to navigate those challenges.
Okay, good. I'm all ears.
Well, the most important precaution, according to the text, is to cultivate inner purity and strength.
Inner purity and strength. It sounds so simple, yet so profound. But how do we actually cultivate those qualities when we're, faced with these unseen forces?
The text explains that when our thoughts, emotions, and intentions are pure and aligned with principles of truth and love, we create a kind of protective shield around ourselves. It's like those positive vibrations repel the negative ones,
Okay.
making us less susceptible to those mischievous influences.
That makes sense. It's like those elementals are drawn to negativity, to fear and doubt.
Right.
So if we can cultivate a mindset of positivity and strength, then we're less likely to attract their attention. But let's be real, staying positive all the time is a tall order, especially when life is throwing curveballs.
It is.
What about those times when fear creeps in?
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
The text emphasizes the importance of facing those fears head on and cultivating a sense of fearlessness and self-confidence.
So it's not about pretending that fear doesn't exist,
Right.
but rather acknowledging it and choosing not to be ruled by it.
Exactly. The text suggests that fear actually attracts those negative influences when we're afraid.
Oh.
We create a kind of energetic vacuum that those mischievous elementals can easily fill.
It's like fear gives them an open invitation, a foothold to latch onto.
Right.
So it's crucial to stand our ground and affirm our own inner strength.
Precisely, the text even suggests that when we encounter those negative forces, we should greet them with a firm but friendly attitude, acknowledging their presence, but asserting our own dominance.
Okay.
It's like saying, I see you, but I'm not afraid of you.
I love that it's not about engaging in a battle, but rather maintaining a sense of inner authority and clarity.
Exactly. And by maintaining that attitude of inner strength, we can navigate those subtle realms safely and continue our journey of spiritual exploration without being swayed by those mischievous influences.
This is also fascinating, and it really highlights the importance of approaching yoga with wisdom and discernment, especially when we're exploring these deeper levels of consciousness.
Right.
But, as we're talking about navigating those uncharted territories, it makes me think about the importance of finding a qualified teacher. I mean, going it alone can feel pretty daunting.
Absolutely. A skilled teacher can be invaluable, especially when venturing into those more subtle and potentially challenging aspects of yoga.
It's like embarking on a trek through the wilderness without a map or a compass. You might eventually find your way, but it's much easier and safer with an experienced guide.
I couldn't agree more. A teacher acts as your mentor, helping you understand the teachings and practices of yoga in a way that's safe and effective. They can point out potential pitfalls, offer personalized guidance, and help you navigate those challenging terrains with greater confidence.
So it's not just about finding someone who can demonstrate the poses correctly. It's about finding someone who embodies the true spirit of yoga.
Yes.
Someone who has walked the path themselves and can guide you with wisdom and compassion.
Exactly. And the text actually emphasizes the importance of discernment when choosing a teacher.
Okay.
It suggests carefully evaluating potential teachers and looking for those who embody the qualities of wisdom, compassion, and integrity.
So it's not just about finding a popular teacher or someone who teaches a style of yoga that's trendy. It's about finding someone who resonates with you on a deeper level, someone you trust and feel comfortable learning from.
Precisely. And when you find that right teacher, it's like having a key that unlocks a hidden door. They can guide you deeper into the mysteries of yoga and help you accelerate your progress on the path of self-realization.
That makes so much sense. Now, I know we've touched on the importance of willpower and discipline in yoga, but let's be honest. For those of us juggling busy lives, finding the time and motivation to practice consistently can be a real challenge. Any advice from the text on how to overcome that hurdle?
That's a challenge many of us face, for sure. And thankfully, the text offers some practical advice for integrating yoga into our daily lives, even amidst the busyness and distractions of the modern world.
Okay, I'm ready to hear those golden nuggets of wisdom. What does the text suggest?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of creating a sacred space for your practice.
A sacred space. I love that.
Yeah.
But I live in a tiny apartment with roommates and a cat who loves to nap on my yoga mat. How do I create a sacred space in the midst of that chaos?
It doesn't have to be a grand temple or a dedicated room. It can be a small corner of your bedroom, a spot in your living room, or even a peaceful place in nature. The key is to designate that space as your sanctuary for yoga. And create a sense of reverence and intentionality around your practice.
So it's about setting the stage for a deeper connection with myself. even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Exactly. And the text suggests creating a simple ritual to mark the beginning and end of your practice.
A ritual, I like that it sets the tone for a more mindful and intentional experience.
Precisely. It could be as simple as lighting a candle, chanting a mantra, or simply taking a few deep breaths to center yourself.
Those are great suggestions. It's about creating a container for the practice, a way to signal to my mind and body that it's time to shift gears and enter a different state of being.
Exactly. And the text also emphasizes the importance of approaching your practice with a sense of gratitude.
Gratitude. It seems like that word keeps popping up in our conversation today, but I'm realizing it's not just a feel-good sentiment. It's a powerful practice in and of itself.
It is. The text suggests taking a moment before and after your practice to acknowledge and appreciate the opportunity to connect with your body, your breath, and your inner self.
So instead of viewing my yoga practice as another item on my to-do list, I can shift my perspective and see it as a gift, a chance to nourish myself and cultivate a deeper connection with my true nature.
Beautifully said, and that shift in perspective can make all the difference in your experience.
I can imagine it would. It's like transforming a chore into a celebration. But, as we're talking about gratitude and appreciating the opportunity to practice, I'm reminded of another challenge many people face, comparing themselves to others.
Oh, comparison, the thief of joy.
Right.
It's certainly a trap that's easy to fall into, especially in the world of yoga, where images of seemingly perfect poses and flexible bodies are constantly bombarding us.
Yeah, it can be so discouraging. I look at those pictures and think, I'll never be able to do that.
It's important to remember that yoga is not a competition.
Right.
It's a personal journey of self-discovery and transformation.
Right. It's not about achieving some external standard of perfection. It's about honoring my own unique body, my own strengths and limitations, and meeting myself exactly where I am at this moment.
Beautifully said, the text emphasizes that each of us is on our own unique path.
And comparison only serves to distract us from our own journey.
So true. It's like comparing apples and oranges. We're all different, with different bodies, different life experiences, and different levels of flexibility and strength.
Exactly. The text encourages us to celebrate those differences.
Yeah.
And to focus on our own progress, however small it may seem.
That's such a great reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in the shoulds and shouldn'ts of yoga and lose sight of the joy of the practice.
It is. It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns.
Right.
And finding the joy in each step we take.
So instead of beating myself up because I can't touch my toes,
Right.
I can celebrate the fact that I showed up on my mat today and honored my body with movement and breath.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate this attitude of self-acceptance and gratitude, we begin to experience the true essence of yoga, which is a state of peace, joy, and interconnectedness.
That sounds amazing, but let's be real. There are days when even getting on the mat feels like a monumental effort. Life gets busy, stress mounts.
And motivation wanes. Any tips from the text on how to stay committed to our practice even when those challenges arise?
Absolutely. The text emphasizes the importance of cultivating a sense of discipline and dedication.
Discipline. That word sometimes feels a little intimidating. It conjures up images of strict routines and rigid rules.
It doesn't have to be that way. The text presents discipline as a form of self-love,
Okay.
a way to honor our commitment to ourselves and our well-being.
So instead of viewing discipline as a form of punishment, I can see it as a way to nurture myself and support my growth.
Exactly. And the text suggests creating a regular practice schedule that works for you and sticking to it as much as possible.
So consistency is key.
It is, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day, making time for your practice consistently will create momentum and help you establish a strong foundation.
That makes sense. It's like building any habit, whether it's flossing your teeth or going for a daily walk. The more consistent you are, the easier it becomes.
Precisely. And the text also encourages us to find an accountability partner or join a group class to help us stay motivated and supported.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know for me, having a friend to practice with makes a huge difference. It keeps me accountable and adds a fun social element to the experience.
And those social connections can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
The text actually highlights the importance of community in the yogic path. It suggests that surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals who share our values and aspirations can provide a sense of belonging, support, and inspiration.
That makes so much sense. It's like we're all in this together, supporting each other on our individual journeys.
Exactly. And the text suggests that those connections can extend beyond the physical realm. It speaks of a subtle web of energy that connects all beings, a kind of universal consciousness that we can tap into through practices like meditation and compassion.
Okay, now we're really getting into the mystical side of yoga.
We are.
The idea of this interconnected web of consciousness is fascinating, but it's also a bit abstract. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course, imagine a spider web glistening with dewdrops in the early morning light. Each dewdrop is a unique individual, yet they are all connected by the delicate threads of the web.
I love that imagery. So we're all like those dewdrops,
Yeah.
unique expressions of consciousness, yet interconnected by this invisible web of energy.
Precisely. And the text suggests that through practices like compassion and loving kindness meditation, we can strengthen those connections and experience a profound sense of unity with all beings.
Wow, that's powerful. It shifts the focus from me to we, from individual isolation to a sense of belonging and interconnectedness.
Exactly. And as we cultivate those feelings of compassion and interconnectedness, we begin to tap into a source of wisdom and strength that extends far beyond our individual limitations.
It's like we're drawing from a collective well of consciousness,
Yeah,
a universal reservoir of wisdom and love.
it is.
But as we're talking about these more mystical aspects of yoga, I'm wondering, does the text mention anything about the concept of enlightenment? Is that something that's attainable through this practice?
That's a question that's been pondered by philosophers and spiritual seekers for centuries.
It has.
And the text does offer some insights into the nature of enlightenment,
Yeah.
although it doesn't present it as a fixed destination or a final goal.
So it's not like climbing a mountain and finally reaching the summit.
Exactly. The text describes enlightenment more as a process of awakening, a gradual unfolding of consciousness that occurs as we purify our minds and bodies, cultivate right thinking, and develop our willpower and concentration.
So it's a journey, not a destination, but what does that awakening actually entail? How does it manifest in our lives?
The text suggests that as we progress on the path of yoga, we begin to experience a shift in our perception of reality.
Okay.
We start to see the world with greater clarity and understanding.
So it's not about escaping reality, but rather seeing it more clearly, more truthfully.
Exactly. And as we see more clearly, we begin to detach from our ego-driven desires and attachments.
We become less identified with the small, limited self and more connected to the vastness of universal consciousness.
Precisely. And the text suggests that this shift in perception leads to a profound sense of peace, freedom, and liberation from suffering.
It sounds like a truly transformative experience.
It is.
But I have to ask, is enlightenment something that's accessible to everyone? Or is it reserved for a select few who dedicate their lives to spiritual practice?
The text is clear that the path of yoga is open to everyone,
Okay.
regardless of their background beliefs or lifestyle.
That's so inspiring. It means that even those of us juggling busy lives with families, jobs, and other commitments can still access these profound teachings and experience those transformative benefits.
Absolutely. And the text emphasizes that enlightenment is not about renouncing the world or living in a cave.
Right.
It's about bringing those principles of awareness, compassion, and wisdom into our everyday lives.
So it's about integrating the teachings of yoga into the fabric of our lives,
Yeah.
whether we're at work, at home, or out in the world.
Precisely. And the text suggests that as we do, that we become beacons of light, radiating those positive vibrations out into the world and inspiring others to awaken to their own potential.
This is also inspiring. It really paints a picture of yoga as a path of self-discovery, healing,
Right.
and ultimately of awakening to our true nature. But, as we're talking about this journey of self-transformation, I'm wondering, does the text mention anything about the role of intuition in this process?
That's a great question. Intuition plays a significant role in the yogic path. The text describes intuition as a kind of inner knowing, a subtle voice of wisdom that guides us from within.
It's like that gut feeling. We sometimes get that inner voice that whispers guidance or warns us of potential danger.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we progress on the path of yoga, our intuition becomes more refined and reliable.
But how do we actually cultivate and strengthen our intuition? Are there specific practices that can help us tap into that inner wisdom?
Absolutely. The text emphasizes the importance of quieting the mind through practices like meditation and pranayama breathing techniques. As we learn to still the constant chatter of the mind, the subtle whispers of intuition become clearer.
It's like clearing away the static,
Right.
so we can tune in to the subtle frequency of our inner guidance.
Exactly.
But what about those times when we're faced with a difficult decision and our intuition seems unclear?
Yeah.
What if we're not sure which path to take?
The text suggests turning inward and seeking guidance from our higher self.
Our higher self. That sounds pretty mystical. What exactly is our higher self?
Think of it as the wisest, most compassionate, and most evolved aspect of our being.
Okay.
It's the part of us that is connected to the divine, to the source of all wisdom and love.
So it's like tapping into that universal consciousness we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And the text suggests that we can access the wisdom of our higher self through practices like meditation, prayer, and contemplation.
So when I'm faced with a tough decision, I can take a moment to quiet my mind, turn inward, and ask for guidance from that higher source of wisdom within me.
Precisely. And the text emphasizes that the answers we receive may not always be what we expect or want to hear,
Right.
but they will always be in our highest good.
It's about trusting that inner guidance, even if it challenges our preconceived notions or takes us in a direction we didn't anticipate.
Exactly. And as we cultivate that trust and follow the whispers of our intuition, we begin to align our lives with our soul's purpose and experience a profound sense of fulfillment and meaning.
This is also inspiring. It really highlights the transformative power of yoga and its potential to guide us towards a more awakened and fulfilling life. But as we're talking about the impact of yoga on our interactions with others, I'm reminded of another challenge that many people face dealing with difficult people.
Oh, difficult people.
Yeah.
We all encounter them at some point. Those individuals who seem to drain our energy, push our buttons, and challenge our patience. Any advice from the text on how to navigate those tricky relationships with greater grace and skill?
Oh yes, difficult people. We all encounter them at some point. Those individuals who seem to drain our energy, push our buttons, and challenge our patience.
They do. Any advice from the text on how to navigate those tricky relationships with greater grace and skill?
Okay.
Good.
I'm all ears because I definitely have a few difficult people in my life that I could use some help navigating. What does the text suggest?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of cultivating compassion even for those who are challenging to love.
Cultivating compassion for difficult people, that sounds like a tall order.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to do that?
The text suggests trying to see things from their perspective, understanding that their behavior often stems from their own pain, fear, or insecurity.
So it's about recognizing that they're not necessarily trying to be difficult,
Right.
but rather their actions are a reflection of their own inner struggles.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate that understanding, our anger and resentment begin to soften.
It's like shifting from judgment to empathy, from seeing them as the enemy to seeing them as fellow human beings who are also on their own journey.
Precisely. And the text reminds us that everyone is fighting their own battles.
Right.
And sometimes those battles manifest in ways that are challenging for others.
So instead of taking their behavior personally, I can choose to see it as a reflection of their own internal state, not a direct attack on me.
Right.
That's a helpful perspective shift.
It is. And the text also encourages us to set healthy boundaries with difficult people, protecting our own energy and well-being while still maintaining compassion for them.
So it's not about becoming a doormat or tolerating abuse.
No.
It's about finding that balance between compassion and self-respect.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate that balance, we're better able to navigate those challenging relationships with grace, wisdom, and compassion.
That makes sense. But, as we're talking about the importance of compassion, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the practice of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, it's a powerful concept, but it can also be incredibly challenging, especially when we've been deeply hurt or betrayed. What does the text say about forgiveness?
Yeah.
The text emphasizes that forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior or pretending that we haven't been hurt.
Okay.
It's about releasing the resentment and anger that we hold on to, freeing ourselves from the burden of the past.
So it's more about our own healing and liberation than about letting the other person off the hook.
Exactly. The text suggests that holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Wow, that's a powerful analogy.
It is.
It really highlights how holding on to those negative emotions ultimately harms us more than anyone else.
And it does. And the text encourages us to practice forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for our own well-being and peace of mind.
But forgiveness can be such a difficult process. Any practical advice from the text on how to actually cultivate forgiveness?
The text suggests various techniques such as loving-kindness meditation, where we cultivate feelings of compassion and goodwill towards ourselves and others, including those who have hurt us.
So it's about shifting our energy from resentment to compassion, from judgment to understanding.
Precisely. And the text also suggests visualizing the person we need to forgive and sending them thoughts of love, peace, and healing.
That's a beautiful practice. It's about recognizing their humanity and wishing them well, even if we're still hurt by their actions.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes that forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event.
Right.
It may take time and effort to fully release those feelings of hurt and resentment.
So it's about being patient with ourselves and allowing the process to unfold naturally.
Right.
But, as we're talking about forgiveness and releasing the past, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the practice of living in the present moment.
Ah, yes, the present moment. That's where the true magic of life unfolds. The text emphasizes that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only moment we truly have is the present.
It's so easy to get caught up in regrets about the past or worries about the future. But I imagine that yoga offers tools and practices to help us cultivate that present moment awareness.
It does, and one of the most powerful tools is the practice of mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
It's a word we hear a lot these days. But what does it actually mean in the context of yoga?
Mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment, to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment or resistance.
So it's about simply observing what's happening within and around us without getting swept away by our thoughts or emotions.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate mindfulness, we become more aware of our patterns of thinking and behavior,
Okay.
which empowers us to make more conscious choices.
It's like we're stepping out of the autopilot mode and becoming the conscious creators of our own lives.
Precisely. And the text emphasizes that mindfulness can be practiced in every moment, whether we're eating, walking, working, or simply breathing.
So it's not about setting aside specific time for mindfulness practice.
Right.
It's about integrating that awareness into the fabric of our lives.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we do that, we begin to experience a profound sense of peace, joy, and gratitude for the simple gift of being alive.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But let's be real, for those of us juggling busy lives, staying present can feel like a constant battle. Distractions are everywhere. Any tips from the text on how to cultivate mindfulness amidst the chaos of modern life?
Absolutely. The text emphasizes the importance of creating mindful moments throughout the day.
Mindful moments, I like that, but what exactly are mindful moments and how do I create them?
There's simply brief pauses in your day where you consciously bring your attention to the present moment.
Okay.
It could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths before starting a task, savoring each bite of your meal,
Okay.
or appreciating the beauty of nature during your walk.
So it's about finding those opportunities to hit the pause button on autopilot and reconnect with the present moment, even if it's just for a few seconds.
Exactly. And the text suggests that those small moments of mindfulness can have a cumulative effect, gradually transforming our relationship to time and experience.
It's like we're rewiring our brains to be more present, more attuned to the richness of each moment.
Precisely. And as we cultivate this present moment awareness, we begin to experience a deeper sense of peace, joy, and gratitude for the simple gift of life.
This is all so inspiring.
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of yoga to transform not only our inner world, but also our experience of the outer world.
Yeah.
But, as we're talking about mindfulness and present moment awareness, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the practice of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
We've touched on it briefly,
We have.
but I'd love to dive a little deeper into that concept.
Gratitude is such a powerful practice, and it's woven throughout the teachings of yoga.
It is.
The text emphasizes that cultivating gratitude can transform our lives in profound ways.
I've definitely found that to be true in my own life when I consciously focus on the things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
It really shifts my perspective
It does.
and helps me appreciate the abundance that already exists in my life.
Exactly. Gratitude is like a magnet for positivity. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we attract more good things into our lives.
But sometimes it can be hard to feel grateful, especially when life throws challenges our way. Any tips from the text on how to cultivate gratitude, even when we're going through tough times?
The text suggests keeping a gratitude journal,
Okay,
where we write down a few things we're grateful for each day.
that's a great idea. It helps to bring those blessings to the forefront of our minds,
Yeah.
especially when we're feeling overwhelmed by stress or negativity.
It does, and the text also suggests practicing gratitude meditations,
Okay,
where we consciously focus on feelings of appreciation and thankfulness.
so instead of dwelling on what's wrong, we're actively shifting our attention to what's right.
Precisely, and the text emphasizes that gratitude can be practiced in every moment, whether we're enjoying a delicious meal, connecting with loved ones, or simply appreciating the beauty of nature.
It's about finding those moments of appreciation, those sparks of joy in the midst of the ordinary.
Exactly, and as we cultivate that attitude of gratitude, we begin to experience a deeper sense of peace, contentment, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
This is all so inspiring. It's amazing how these ancient teachings of yoga are so relevant to our modern lives,
They are.
offering practical guidance on how to navigate challenges, cultivate inner peace, and live more fulfilling lives.
It is a timeless wisdom.
It is.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about gratitude and connecting to something greater than ourselves, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the concept of surrender.
Surrender. It's a word that often carries a negative connotation, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like giving up or admitting defeat. But in the context of yoga, it takes on a whole new meaning.
So what does surrender mean in the yogic path? What are we surrendering to?
In yoga, surrender is not about weakness or resignation. It's about letting go of our ego's need to control, trusting in the wisdom of a higher power, and allowing life to unfold as it's meant to.
It's about relinquishing the reins and having faith that we're being guided and supported even when we can't see the bigger picture.
Exactly, and the text suggests is that as we cultivate surrender, we experience a profound sense of peace, freedom, and liberation from the burden of trying to force things to go our way.
That sounds incredibly liberating.
It is.
But surrender can be such a challenging concept to grasp,
It can.
especially in our Western culture, where we're so often taught to strive, achieve, and control.
Yeah, you're right.
Any tips from the text on how to cultivate that sense of surrender?
The text suggests various practices, such as offering our actions and intentions to a higher power, accepting the things we cannot change, and cultivating a sense of detachment from the outcome of our efforts.
So it's about recognizing that we're not in control of everything, and that's okay.
Exactly. It's about releasing the need to micromanage every aspect of our lives.
Right.
And trusting that there's a higher intelligence at work guiding us towards our highest good.
That's a powerful perspective shift.
Yeah.
But I imagine it takes practice
It does.
and a willingness to let go of our ego's need to be in charge.
It does. But the text assures us that as we cultivate surrender, we tap into a source of strength and wisdom that is far greater than our own limited perspective.
It's like we're aligning ourselves with the flow of the universe, allowing life to carry us towards our destiny.
Beautifully said. And the text suggests that as we surrender, we experience a profound sense of peace, joy, and interconnectedness with all of creation.
This is all so enlightening. It really highlights the transformative power of yoga and its potential to guide us towards a more awakened and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
But, as we're talking about surrender and trusting in a higher power, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the concept of faith.
Faith. It's a word that often evokes religious connotations, but in the context of yoga, it takes on a more universal meaning.
So what does faith mean in the yogic path? What are we having faith in?
In yoga, faith is not about blindly believing in a particular dogma or doctrine. It's about cultivating trust in the wisdom of the universe, in the inherent goodness of life, and in our own inner guidance.
It's about having confidence that we're not alone, that we're being guided and supported on our journey, even when we can't see the path ahead.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate faith, we tap into a source of strength and resilience that helps us navigate challenges with grace and courage.
It's like faith becomes a compass
Yes.
that points us in the right direction, even when the terrain is uncertain.
Precisely. And the text reminds us that faith is not a static belief,
Look.
but rather a dynamic process that grows and deepens as we experience life's challenges and triumphs.
So it's not about having all the answers, but rather having the trust that the answers will reveal themselves in time.
Exactly. And the text suggests that as we cultivate faith, we open ourselves to miracles, to synchronicities, and to the unfolding of a divine plan that is far greater than our limited human understanding.
That's such a beautiful perspective. It's about letting go of that illusion of control and embracing the mystery of life. But how do we actually cultivate faith when we're faced with, uncertainty and doubt? Those can be such powerful forces to overcome.
The text suggests a few different practices to kind of nurture that faith. One is to reflect on past experiences where we've overcome challenges and emerged stronger. Remembering those moments of resilience can bolster our faith and our ability to navigate, future obstacles.
It's like looking back at our own personal hero's journey and realizing that we've already conquered mountains that we once thought were insurmountable.
Exactly.
That's definitely a confidence booster.
Another practice is to connect with nature.
Okay.
The text really emphasizes that spending time in nature can help us tap into a sense of awe and wonder, reminding us that we're part of something much greater than ourselves.
I've definitely felt that there's something about being in nature that just puts things in perspective.
Mm,
The vastness of the ocean, the majesty of a mountain range. It reminds us that our worries and fears are often quite small
right.
in comparison to the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And as we connect with that sense of awe and wonder, our faith in the wisdom and beauty of the universe naturally deepens. The text also suggests surrounding ourselves with inspiring people. Those who radiate positivity and faith, their energy can be contagious, uplifting our spirits and strengthening our own belief in the goodness of life.
It's like those people become living examples of faith in action,
Yeah.
demonstrating the power of positive thinking and trust in the universe. Their energy can be so inspiring. But, as we're talking about faith and connecting to something greater than ourselves, I'm reminded of another key aspect of yoga, the concept of purpose.
Yeah.
Does the text offer any insights into how we discover our purpose in life?
That's a question that's been pondered by philosophers and spiritual seekers for centuries, and the text does offer some guidance on that quest for purpose.
Okay.
It suggests that our purpose is often revealed through our passions, our interests, and the things that bring us joy.
So it's about paying attention to those things that light us up,
Yes.
those activities that make us feel truly alive.
Exactly. The text suggests that our purpose often lies at the intersection of our talents, our passions, and the needs of the world.
So it's not just about doing what we love, but also about using our gifts to make a positive contribution to the world.
Exactly.
That's really inspiring. But how do we actually discover those passions and talents? What if we're feeling lost or unsure of our direction in life?
The text encourages us to explore different paths, to experiment with various activities, and to be open to new experiences.
It's about stepping outside of our comfort zones, trying new things, and seeing what resonates with our hearts.
Exactly. And the text emphasizes that the journey of discovering our purpose is not always linear. There may be twists and turns, detours and setbacks, but each experience, even the challenging ones, offers valuable lessons that guide us towards our true calling.
So it's about embracing the journey, trusting the process, and being open to the unexpected detours that life throws our way.
Precisely. And the text suggests that as we cultivate that trust and follow our inner guidance, we gradually align our lives with our soul's purpose and experience a profound sense of fulfillment and meaning.
This has been such an incredible deep dive into the world of yoga. We've covered so much ground, from the physical postures to the subtle realms of consciousness, from the importance of self-discipline to the power of surrender and faith. It's really amazing how these ancient teachings offer such profound wisdom for navigating the challenges and opportunities of modern life.
It truly is a timeless wisdom.
And I think one of the key takeaways from this deep dive is that yoga is so much more than just a physical practice.
Right.
It's a holistic system of self-transformation that encompasses all aspects of our being, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves.
It does.
It's about cultivating a life of awareness, compassion, purpose, and joy. And it's a journey that's open to everyone, regardless of their background, beliefs, or physical abilities.
Beautifully said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to offer just one final thought. The text emphasizes that the true essence of yoga is not something that's achieved through external practices or rituals. It's a state of being, a way of seeing the world, and ultimately a way of loving.
It's about embodying those qualities of compassion, kindness, gratitude, and joy in every moment of our lives.
Precisely. And as we cultivate those qualities, we become living expressions of yoga, radiating those positive vibrations out into the world and inspiring others to do the same.
That's such a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
So to all of you listening, I encourage you to embrace the transformative power of yoga and embark on your own journey of self-discovery. The path is open, the wisdom is available, and the rewards are immeasurable.
Namaste.
Namaste.